Hey there, my name is Martha, and once a month I like to share what I've been reading. This will probably be my last month of doing that or doing it in this format. I actually forgot to do an intro for this video, so I literally am editing it downstairs, and I just have my hair in a braid because it was bugging me today. And so I just came on here really quick to do an intro of the books I read in August, which I read some pretty good ones, but a lot of thrillers. If you're into thrillers, like police procedural, so if you like that kind of thing, definitely check out this video. This may be my last book kind of review in this format video. I probably won't have time to do it in October. Um, and I for me, talking about books is kind of needs to be interactive. Like, you find someone who read it, and you kind of go back and forth. Or I might change the format to just be like quick, like little teasers, without going into too much about what the book is, and make these very short or into shorts if I keep doing them. I did hear from some of you that you do want me to keep doing this, but I think it's I don't know, if not a lot of people watch and there's not a lot of interaction about what I read, it just doesn't make it as fun. So we'll see, but I probably will not talk about what I'm reading. Let me do it now, actually. I'm going to do it now. See, I'm totally changing this up. This was not planned. I just finished reading from Alex North. The Man Made of Smoke. I finished that today. This is my second Alex North book that I read, and his books have this very creep me they creep me out, a creepy vibe to them. They kind of make the hairs on the back of your heads, they're kind of reminding like a Sixth Sense type of vibe, because there's kind of, is it a ghost, is it not a ghost, like what's going on, kind of thing. The Whisper Man was like that one just like really was creepy. This one for me wasn't as creepy, but it still has, his writing style is like that. Both of those books were about serial killers, and both of those books deal with small boys or boys going missing from like the age of 5 to 12. So if that's a trigger warning for you, just know that. But they're good. Like, I just really like his writing. They do creep me out in a can I say good way? They're just they're well written, I think, if you like that kind of, you just want to be a little creeped out vibe. So that's The Man Made of Smoke. I'm telling you what I'm reading now, and then we'll get into what I read in August. And then I just picked this up from the library yesterday. This is The Book of Lost Hours by Haley Gelfuso. It looks like it's a book of the month from Good Morning America. This just came out. Like, I'm one of the first people to get it on the hold. When I hear about a book that's being released soon, I immediately go to my library. I'm like, can I? And they were ordering some, and I think I was like number 6 on the list. So I don't even quite remember what this one about. This one is about. It just says, "Who would rewrite history for you?" Oh, I do remember what this is about. Yeah, this sounds really good. I like things that are kind of like alternate universe, or if you read The Midnight Library from Matt, start last name I think is with an H. It was a pretty popular book. I think it might have, or maybe is it the 10,000 Doors of January? If you know what I'm talking about. That kind of a vibe. That's like an alternate universe kind of thing, or so that's what this is. So I like those kind of books, so I grabbed that one. And then I just started, I'm maybe like on chapter 8 or something, on a very thick book here from Jojo Moyes. This is We All Live Here. And so far I am enjoying this one. This has to do with a divorcee. Her name is Lila Kennedy, single mom, has 2 daughters. Her stepdad has moved in with them. She just lost her mother as well. And she's dealing with, like, her ex-husband is now having a baby with his new wife. And so Lila's just like, a lot is going on. She's still mourning the loss of her mother. Like I said, her stepdad moves in. Now her real dad has shown up. That's kind of where I am in the book. So I think it's a story about family, and probably found family, or that's where I'm getting from this, is how people can come together and maybe help heal each other. That's the vibe I'm getting from this book. I do enjoy her books as well. And then I finished last week The Wedding People. I'm looking at it because I have that book. Wedding People by Alison Espach, I think is the name. Let me go grab it. The Wedding People. This was a great book. I really, really love this book. It was might have been like on several lists, book of the year lists. This was a book of the year 2024 finalist. And I want to say it was maybe a Jenna book club book last year. I loved this one. So if you haven't read this one, I highly recommend it. I like the audio, so I kind of go back and forth between audio and reading it. I did like the audio because there's a lot of banter and dialogue, and I thought the audio was done very well. But this is a story about Phoebe. Phoebe has just been recently divorced. Her cat, her and her ex-husband's cat that she's had for many, many years, just died. Like, her life is like, she's kind of hitting rock bottom. Things have not been good. Her marriage didn't turn out the way she thought. Like, life is kind of not turning out the way she had hoped. And so the trigger warning here is suicide. But Phoebe goes to this inn in Cornwall, I think Rhode Island, or it's called the Cornwall Inn in Rhode Island. And she goes there in her fanciest emerald green dress that she never got to wear because she always wore like this simple black. Like, she was very passive. She kind of didn't tell people what she wanted. And then she's, in some ways, I think, grown to resent things that have happened to her because she was always trying to please other people, and she never was true to herself. And then so she shows up in this resort inn in this emerald gown and like gold heels, a gown that she never got to wear. I think she was planning on wearing it to like an award ceremony that her husband was going to win an award. And she just never got to be bold enough to wear this beautiful green gown. She is mistaken as a wedding guest by the bride, thinking, because this bride has all this money. She's spending so much money on her wedding. It's a week-long wedding where there's like activities every day up until the wedding, and the bride finds out that Phoebe is planning to commit suicide. She in her beautiful dress, and like this was gonna be her last hurrah, her last night, and then she was going to commit suicide. The bride-to-be finds out about this, and there's no way that, I think her name was Lila. Like, there's 2 books with Lila in here that I'm reading, and no way is Lila, I believe it's Lila, going to allow Phoebe to mess up her wedding week, basically. And they're very opposites, and they somehow have this connection, even though they're nothing alike. And that's kind of all I will say. But I really enjoyed this book. And it's a book about, I think, how connection and people, come, she finds a reason to live, I think, after meeting the rest of the wedding people and becoming part of the wedding people. So yeah, this is not really a book about marriage, or it is a book about marriage in the sense of just relationships. But it's not a book about like weddings. So it's really just a book about people and figuring out who you are. So I love this book. So anyway, that's what I read. That's what I'm reading currently in September. But now the rest of this video is what I read in August. And like I said, maybe I'll do quicker reviews in the future or something. But this will be the last, like, maybe longer format of me talking about books. All right. Hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. And here we go. What did I read in August? Okay. We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough, bestselling author of Behind Her Eyes. I read Behind Her Eyes, and I really liked that book so much that when I saw she was having, or another book came out, I was like, I'm gonna read this, because Behind Her Eyes was, the ending is like, what the, oh my, it's just like, whoa. It was one of those blow your hair back, whoa. And the book is a little eerie and odd. I mean, it is odd. So if you like that, or if you've read that book, you will like this. I'm pretty sure you'll like this book. I really like this book. This is and it's got the old, is this a haunted house? It's got the ravens. This all kind of plays a part in this book. So you've got Emily and Freddie. They've been married for some time. Emily just is coming out of a coma. She fell like off a trail, or was she pushed? Who knows? But she fell, I think broke her leg, multiple places, was in a coma, had a sepsis infection, and now she's out, and they want to start a new life outside of London. So they move into this house that's called it's like a lodge. It was a lodge. It's a big house, a lot of land, but it's also like early winter, like late fall, so everything around there's kind of dead. There's like fog. So she does do atmosphere very well. And it's short. I mean, it's under 200, under 300 pages. So it was a quick read for me. And then Emily is also she's open to the idea of ghosts. She's done Ouija board stuff, with her college friend. And then you have Freddie, who does not believe in that at all. Very like, no, there's got to be a rational reason behind the creaks and the noises and things that are going on in the house that are very odd. And they also feel a little more negative in the house. Like their moods are different when they're in the house. And then when they leave, it's just like, okay, maybe we shouldn't have gotten to that fight kind of thing, So there's something going on with the house. Emily has a secret that she doesn't want Freddie to know. And Freddie has a secret that he doesn't want Emily to know. And because she was in a coma and a lot has happened, they need a fresh start with their marriage, but they don't trust each other because they have these secrets. Emily still has kind of a bad leg, and she's at the house most of the time, while Freddie still goes back to London for a few days and works. And when Emily's there, I mean, it gives her the creeps. There's like books that move. There's writing on the fog, and the steam in the bathroom. There's a nail that sticks up every once in a while that supposedly Freddie got rid of. Windows opening, smell of like just rotting grossness, So Emily is just convinced this house is haunted. It gives her the creeps. It's just, ugh. Freddie is like, no, it's an old house. You're just hearing noises, you're hearing creaks. But he starts to see and hear things as well, or smell things, right? But he thinks it's Emily messing with him because he's kind of angry with her. And he just feels like, no, there's some other explanation for this. There's also a couple in this town, village, or whatever, that's just a little odd. I won't get into them too much, but there's something about them. And then there's like a vicar. So Emily starts to wants to look at the history of the house. Like, did somebody die here? Like something, right? And apparently, according to the vicar, it was built on a crossroads, which has like a spiritual thing to it. What else can I say about this book? There's sections in here, like mini teeny tiny chapters that talk about these ravens and the ravens that are in here. And I just like the way the story comes together. I like the way she tells a creepy, atmospheric story. It's just well done, in my opinion. It is a little odd. It is a little twisty, but you kind of gotta like that kind of thing. And I gave this one 4.75 stars. I really like this one. And yeah, I don't want to give away the ending. I'm not going to give away the ending, but if you like Behind Her Eyes, this I think lives up to another great book from Sarah Pinborough. Yeah, this house feeds off that energy, and something is going on. That's all I'm going to say. Something's going on in that house. So 4.75 for that one. I read it super, super fast. The next one here is from Steve Kavanaugh. This is 50/50. And I want to say this is book 5 of the Eddie Flynn series. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it actually says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't know. That's not quite in order, but I read 13, which was like book 4, which I really loved. This is book 5, and then Witness 8 was like book 8. So I'm reading them out of order, but the reason being is that 50/50 was just released in the US, like in the past 2 months. So Steve Kavanaugh is an Irish writer, and so I don't feel like all his books have been released in the US, and so that's why they're a little bit out of order. I think he's starting to become more and more popular. So Witness 8 came out, 13 was really popular, so I don't know what the reasoning behind it is, but 50/50. I read Witness 8 a few months ago, talked about that one. This one's now going back. When you meet some of the characters that are part of his firm, like them, how they come together, how he meets Kate and Block. So that was kind of cool to go back and find out how they all came together. But this book, it says right here, 2 sisters on trial for murder. They accuse each other. Who do you believe? What a great premise. Who do you believe? This is propulsive. It's fast paced. I love a legal drama, mystery thriller. There's like a serial killer in here. I don't want to give away too much from this or of this either, but I just really enjoy Eddie Flynn series. So I'm going to continue reading more. Yeah, this is, if you like that courtroom drama, I'm not going to say more. I think that's it. You just have 2 sisters on trial. One is very put together, composed, confident, maybe could be seen as cold. Both set to win, or not win, but inherit millions and millions of dollars because the father was super rich. That's who they're accused of murdering. They're accused of murdering their father. Like, one sister is blaming the other for doing it, and in a very gruesome way. And then the other sister is Sophia, is the one that Eddie Flynn is the defense lawyer for, defending. And she's had some mental illness. She's more fragile, more sensitive, just is not as put together as her sister. So which one is it? Yeah, a lot of good stuff in this one, and I just like his books. If you like The Firm, Pelican Brief, like those early John Grisham books, I think you'll really like the Eddie Flynn series. So far I've read 13, 50/50, and Witness 8, and I think he's got like 8 books. I think a new one was just released as well, or is about to be released. I think so anyway, I'm gonna read that one as well. I'm hooked. I'm hooked on the Eddie Flynn series. He's a con artist turned lawyer, and it's lots of fun to read. So 50/50 by Steve Kavanaugh. I gave this 4.5 stars. All right, this is book 3. This is a book that I had on my TBR for a long time, and I took it off, I think back in 2021. So this book is from about 2021. So easy to find. I think it's in paperback now, and I listened to the audiobook. This is by Stacey Abrams, and my understanding is there's a TV adaptation being made for this. I really had high expectations for this. I'm just going to tell you now. I gave it a solid, I think, 3 stars, because for me it wasn't a tight thriller like I would like it. But let me tell you what it's about. So there's Avery Keene. She's a Supreme Court Justice clerk. There's the Supreme Court Justice Wynne, and he falls into a deep coma and has given her legal guardianship and power of attorney. He's also married, so he's got an estranged a wife that I think they've been separated, and a son who's estranged. So everyone finds this very peculiar as to why he's giving it to the clerk, who, he barely knows. What he knows about her is she likes to play chess, and of course she's a good clerk and good at researching, good at her job. So she's trying to figure out why he would do this, because it's a Supreme Court justice. I mean, there's news about this, right? This justice is in a coma. But some weird stuff starts happening. For example, the nurse that was taking care of him on the night he went to coma is mysteriously found dead a few days later, and Avery starts to feel like her life is, being threatened. She also has a mother who's a drug addict who is kind of in and out of this story. And there's a place for her in this story, but it's a high stakes thriller where there's this American biotech and this Indian genetic firm that is also involved in some really shady stuff. And, the president's involved somehow, his head of like, not social security, Secret Service. Thank you. Secret Service is involved. And so Avery puts together a kind of a team of amateur sleuths to try to figure this out. Part of her team is his estranged son, Jared, who also kind of wanted to meet with her very secretively to tell her that, his dad was onto something, that he also has this degenerative disease that his father has, who's the Supreme Court Justice, and that I think he wanted Avery to figure out about this company that apparently may have a cure of some kind. And so he wants to help Avery kind of figure out what his dad knew and why, obviously he gave her guardianship and power of attorney. And then she's got a roommate who's a doctor, and then there's this attorney, right? An attorney I can't remember whose attorney he was, but the four of them start to try to figure out what's going on. So I think my issue with this book was there's a lot going on, and it just wasn't as tight. Like sometimes thrillers, it just seemed a little loose, a little all over the place in some cases. Like I said, there's this mom, but she's in there, she's not, but then she kind of is important later on. There was the FBI, there was Secret Service, there was this other justice of the court. And so for me, I think it was just a little hard to keep it all together. And what did this genetics company do? And it's just a little hard. And I think part of it too is that the justice did leave these clues for Avery, but they're also, I guess as a reader, maybe I was feeling like her, like, what does this mean? Like, I don't understand. Why would you, like, am I supposed to know what this is? And as a reader, I kind of felt that way. So I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but for me, it just wasn't tight enough for me to like really enjoy it. So it was a book that I read. I'm glad I read it because it was kind of on my TBR, is one that had came back recently. I heard it on a podcast again, and I'm like, oh, that's right. I did want to read that book. So for me, yeah, I think I read it just to see what happens, and it has good reviews. I just maybe have been reading too many thrillers, and it was hard to just kind of get into this one and sink into it. I finished it just to finish it to see what happens, but it wasn't as enjoyable. The ending, there's kind of this nice climactic ending, courtroom ending, but yeah, I felt like I was lacking something. So yeah, I think it's, if you like political thrillers, I would say you might like this more than I did. I think maybe I have just a thriller hangover as well. And it's a little slower paced. And if you like kind of an amateur sleuth thing, you may enjoy that. But for me, it was just a little, I think maybe it needed more editing or something to it. So it was an okay read for me. This was While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. If it ends up coming to TV in some way, I'll probably watch it because I'll see if I like it better than the book. Currently, there's a show called The Hunting Wives on Netflix, and I've only watched the first episode, or maybe two. Maybe I watched 2 episodes by now. But I didn't like that book that much, but it's totally a book that I would love. But I'm like, maybe I'll like it better as a show on Netflix. So far, yes. But like I'm only just a little bit into it. So anyway, this one is While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. Okay, this next one is She Didn't See It Coming from Shari Lapena. Sherry Lapina, I've read one other book from her and I did like it. And after I read hers, I'm like, you know what? This is an author I want to read more of. This book just came out. In fact, I can really quickly look. I think it's pretty quick. I have it here on Goodreads. This one came out July 29th, so very recent. I was lucky to get it on audio from my library. I now have I've now gone to a different county to be able to get even more books. And just FYI, if you're in California and you're a California resident, you can go to different counties and get a library card. So that's what I did. So, and I'm finding that this other county seems to be a little more availability on really new releases. So anyway, I got Sherry Lapina, She Didn't See It Coming. This is a book about a woman, a wife, a mom. I think she's an accountant, and her name is Bryden. Her name is Bryden, and she disappears one day from her condo, just gone. And her car's still there, her keys are there, her phone's there, everything's still in the home, but she's not there. So when her husband and daughter arrive, like, she's gone. And so they feel like something's not right? Because if she had disappeared or vanished or like left, she wouldn't have left her keys, her phone, her car, all of that. So there's the detectives are called in, and they try to figure out what happened to Bryden. At the very beginning of the book, there is a mention of that she was in she had rear-ended a car on her way to pick up her daughter from daycare. And it's mentioned that the guy in the Tesla, I believe it was a Tesla, is very handsome. They changed numbers, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I hit this guy's Tesla. This is going to cost so much money. And that's just like a little snippet right when the book starts. So we know that there's this guy that she hit about 2 weeks earlier. That comes into play as this person becomes a suspect later, as is her husband, as is, anyone around her, because they do find her body eventually in the same building that they live. And so it's a murder case now. So this all happens in the beginning. I'm not giving anything away. And then, of course, this is truly like a detective procedural, like a mystery, mostly through the eyes of the detectives. But, you do hear from the different characters that they interview. So in the beginning, as the detectives are interviewing the husband, and friends and Bryden's sister, Emily, it's like they paint this picture perfect marriage. Everything was fine. Like, we have no idea why she would be gone. But then little by little, things start to unravel, and they're like, things are not as perfect as they seemed. So it wasn't Emily. Her sister was Lizzie. Sorry, I got my notes over here. So Lizzie is her sister. So what ends up being it's just an interesting, I think, maybe suburban murder. I do like the way Sherry Lapina writes her books. I feel like, you're always trying to figure out who was it. Is it her best friend Paige, who's godmother to her daughter? Is there something going on with a husband? Was she having an affair with a guy that she, got in a car accident with a few weeks before? There are some shady characters there, some shady characters over here. What I thought was the most interesting part was her sister Lizzie has always kind of lived in the shadow of her sister Bryden, the one that was murdered. And Lizzie is like really deep into what's it called? Like crime stories. Why do things escape me when I'm recording a video? True crime. That's what I'm trying to say. True crime. And so she's like in this little Facebook group, and she feels important. Like, she kind of gets this adrenaline on knowing things about the murder. She's anonymous in this group. Like, she's not saying, oh, I'm the sister of the person that got murdered. She's got a fake name and everything, but she's giving out details, and she gets a little bit of this high of knowing more things than other people in the group. And this group is basically a group of people who are totally into true crime and think that the police don't know how to do their job, and they can do a better job. And by sharing clues and things that they're hearing, being able to put a case together. So Lizzie, there's that weird thing going on with Lizzie and her relationship with her sister, and like what are her issues and why is she this way. So yeah, a lot of shady characters in here. This is in a way a locked room mystery because it's all happening within the condo. She disappeared. Um, each character starts to become more and more unreliable as you start to hear and learn more about them. And so that was also very interesting. And I think I like that this was fast paced. I felt like if I remember correctly, that the chapters were short. And this is the book compared to the one I just talked about with While Justice Sleeps. This one I couldn't put down, and I finished this one pretty quickly. So this was a solid 4 stars for me. She didn't see it coming, and yeah, I look forward to reading more from Shari Lapena. So she does, I think, domestic. I don't know, I don't know if they're always murders, but like domestic thrillers very well. You've got a missing person. You already know that there's a murder, right off the bat, and then it's all about kind of following the detectives as they start to piece things together, and you're never quite sure exactly what happened until the very end. At least I wasn't, because it's like, it could be this person, it could be that person. So I did enjoy this a lot. Modern true crime. If you like that kind of book, you might like this one a lot. And that is She Didn't See It Coming by Shari Lapena. All right, this next one is Cold Blooded Liar. This is from Karen Rose, and I'd not read this author before, and she's got this is a series, kind of. Let me explain it. There's a series, this is number 27 in her romantic suspense series. But within that romantic suspense series, this is book number 1 of the San Diego Police Department. I guess she just calls it San Diego number 1. This came out in February of 2023. And I picked this one out because I was intrigued by this romantic suspense thing. Like, okay, I don't think I've quite read that mashup of having a romance and a suspense as well. This also was part of, I think it was an indie press list from one of my favorite podcasts, currently reading, as was While Justice Sleeps. I don't know if I said that. But, I heard about it, sounded interesting. I'm like, let me pick it up. I love thrillers. It's kind of my go-to. And in fact, this month, I think that's pretty much all I read. So anyway, this story is about Detective Kit McKittrick and her partner, Baz. She has been it's been like 15 years after the serial killer, right, who's been killing for 15 years, killing young blonde girls every time they find a body, of the serial killers. She's got the victim has pink handcuffs, so that's why they know they're all related. So there's also a psychologist. His name is Dr. Sam Reeves, and he has he treats court-ordered clients. So they're like criminals, or they have a criminal past, and one of his current clients is a pathological liar. But this client is also starting to say some things that are very bothersome to Dr. Sam Reeves, but he doesn't know if it's real or not. So he anonymously gives the LAPD some tips of maybe where to find a body. If this guy's lying, there's nothing there. If he's telling the truth, he's really concerned. And because of patient-client privilege, he can't, it's anonymous. He can't say what he's doing, how he knows who his client is, any of that. So it turns out that, yes, there was a body found in one of the tips he gave the police. So Dr. Sam Reeves ends up becoming a suspect, because how does he know all this stuff? How did he know about these things? Is he lying, right? Is he the serial killer? And so he becomes one of their prime suspects. But while he's in custody, the client of his, maybe I shouldn't say, maybe this is a spoiler. While he's in custody, some other things happen. So now there's like, is he working with a partner? Is he truly a suspect? Is he actually trying to help the police? what is going on. And so the romance part of this book is that the detective Kit starts to have feelings for Dr. Sam. And she's like, I shouldn't. This guy could be a suspect. Why am I feeling this way? But I feel like he's telling the truth. And as a police officer, it's like I shouldn't have a bias, a positive bias for someone until I know the facts. So that's the romance part. But in all honesty, that was kind of it. Like there wasn't any. Did they even kiss? Maybe they kissed at the very end of the book, I think. And I don't know that they do, right? There's a strong pull toward each other. But there wasn't any like romance. It was more like this just, I have feelings for him. I think why am I thinking this way kind of thing. So from that perspective, wasn't quite what I expected, but overall the story, the mystery of the serial killer and the true crime aspect of it, I did like. I thought it was a little different. Dr. Sam is just a really good person, and he also wants to clear his name because now that he's been named kind of a suspect, he wants to clear his name, and he's a little worried that maybe the police aren't going to solve it fast enough. Like it's his life, it's his livelihood. He's a psychologist, and all of that stuff. So he starts to do his own little investigation, and they end up kind of helping each other out. I'll just say that because I don't think that's a giveaway. But what I liked about this story, and this was a longer book. This is, I think, 453 pages, so it's a longer book. It's pretty thick. I listened to it on audio. I think my one gripe with the audio was I did not like how the narrator played Dr. Sam's voice. He sounded very whiny, and that is just not attractive. So it was hard for me to think that this guy is someone this detective's attracted to when he just sounds very whiny. And that part of the audiobook I didn't care for. But besides that, the story itself I did like. And I think what I liked the most of this is really the detective. I really like Kit McKittrick and her kind of relationship with her partners. It was definitely a police procedural, and I liked I liked her family. She comes from the foster system. Her parents are her foster parents. They were very good to her. So in a way, it's nice to hear like a good story of a foster family. She's got lots of foster siblings, and she's very close to them. There is something traumatic that happens at the very, very beginning of the book when she's young. So you get to understand why Kit is the way that she is. And so I really like the family element to it and just how she worked with her partners and how everything came together. So I did enjoy this one. I gave this one, what did I give this one? I gave this one solid 4 stars. It was something that I think I took some points off or a little bit of a star for the narration of the audiobook, and the fact that it wasn't quite the romantic suspense that I thought. But if you kind of ignore that and just say, hey, do I want to read a good police procedural? I thought this was pretty good. So it was a pretty solid 4 stars for me. So that is Cold-Blooded Liar by Karen Rose. All right, this next one should be easier for me to talk about because I just finished it last night. So this one is You Belong Here by Megan Miranda. This is another book that just recently came out. So I got to read 2 pretty new releases in a way this month. And let me find it really quick here so I can tell you a little bit more about it. So this one was released July 29th. So this one, I guess, and Sherry Lapina's came out around the same time. So I've not read a book from Megan Miranda. I've heard of this author. I thought I'd read a book from her in the past, but I kind of went back and looked at her books and I'm like, no, none of these sound familiar. So this was the first one for me from this author. And apparently she's known for kind of these rural small town mysteries, I think. And this one was no exception. So we have the main character who is Beckett. Beckett has a daughter who's about to start college at where is it? It's in Wyatt Valley. I don't know the name of the college. Not that it matters, but Wyatt Valley, Virginia. So it's a small town within kind of by the mountains, and there's a college there, and there's a lot of history, bad history that Beckett has with this town and with the university. She went to school there and she was asked to leave for circumstances that, well, I'll tell you in a second. Her parents are both professors there, or were. They've retired, are professors there, and so that's why she went to school there. Because since they're professors there, their child gets a free, free ride through the school. And now the book starts with, now she's got a daughter who wants to go to the college that Beckett went to. The daughter's name is Delilah. Beckett is like, and she did this all kind of in secret. She didn't tell her mom she was applying there. She knows her mom left there. She knows her mom doesn't like going back there, but she applied, got in, and that's where she's going to school. That's where she's chosen to go. So now it's this drive back to the small town where Beckett is somewhat famous. There's kind of a legend about Beckett. And that kind of gets me into what I didn't like about this book. There's these little hints of she's done something bad. People don't like her. She doesn't want to be here. She's got history with the sheriff or, the law enforcement there. She doesn't want her daughter going there. Her parents are acting very odd. And so that's kind of all but you don't know why. And it felt like she's making a bigger deal out of this for what? Like, because why did she get kicked out of school? Like, apparently her roommate and friend Adeline went missing. And so somehow she's blamed for it, or helped her get away after doing something, and so you're just getting these kind of small little snippets of like what happened to her past, yet she's got all this dread and she's got all these feelings and she thinks people are watching her and she's afraid for her daughter's life. And so I felt like the teasers in some ways should be something that would grab me and have me like, ooh, what happened? I want to know more. But it didn't give me enough. And I kind of felt like going like, what's the big deal? Maybe she's making a bigger deal out of this than not. Now, probably about 50% of the book, you start to get a little bit more of what happened. Oh, there was a murder, that happened, or people died. Maybe I should say people died. And she's, the police couldn't get her to admit how she aided in her friend and these boys dying, and her friend disappeared. And so you kind of hear more of it, but as you're reading this is like, what's the big deal? So that's the part I didn't like about it. But overall, it was a solid mystery. I mean, there's some twists there. Another one where you're not sure who to believe, right? That's kind of the way they go. Is it this person? Is this person? Is there someone really after Delilah? Or is she just kind of, making herself believe there's something worse going on than there is? The main part of the story is Delilah does go missing for a little bit, and it freaks the hell out of her mom, Beckett. She's like, oh, here we go. Something's going on again, right? There's this hazing tradition called the howling, I think, that goes on in the school that's not supposed to be a tradition anymore, but she believes they're still doing it. Her daughter's died on this night. She got a call and it just dropped. And so that's kind of the mystery, like, what happened to her daughter? Is her daughter involved in something? And a lot of Beckett's history comes back to haunt her. That's kind of the premise of the book. And like, you get to figure out, one, what's going on in present day with her daughter. And then you also get to figure out, so there's two things that close at the end of this book. Also figure out what happened in the past. So it just, again, I don't know. I wanted a little bit more to care in the beginning. And because of that, I had trouble kind of getting into it, even though it was interesting. Like, I was interested. It kept me interested. And I would say this is a slow burn. So if you like slow burns, and I do, I've definitely loved some books that are slow burn, but maybe this was a little too slow for me to kind of care where it was going. But as it went on, it became better and better, and I got more invested. So that's why I gave it 3.5 stars. Just kind of wish that historical piece had sucked me in earlier, and it didn't. And so the beginning was a little harder to get into for that reason. So that is You Belong Here by Megan Miranda, and I'm not sure if there's anything else. Well, I think the other thing that why I knocked some stars off of this is in some books I let it slide, and in some stories I don't. And there's a lot of secrets in this one. And I know that probably wouldn't have happened the same way had there not been so many secrets, but I felt like there's some things I'm like, I would have told somebody, I wouldn't just like keep it to myself, especially if you have Delilah's father there trying to help you, and different people trying to help you, your parents, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of secrets here that kind of kept coming out more than I think is realistic. I guess that's how I'll leave it there. So that is, like I said, You Belong Here by Megan Miranda. I might read other books of hers if anyone has and has some recommendations, but this one was just okay for me. So that is it. Those are the 6 books, right? I read 6 books in July, and my favorites, of course, my favorite was what was it called? Like, I can't even remember the name of books, but You Belong Here Now? No, not You Belong Here Now. That's the one I just talked about. My favorite books were, I read this at the beginning of the month. I already forgot. We Live Here Now. I was combining 2 books at one. We Live Here Now by Sarah Pinborough. That was by far my favorite book. It's creepy. I think it would be a great book to read in September, October, kind of that Halloween season. Really creepy, good book if you like that one. And then 50/50, I really enjoy. I'm really loving the Eddie Flynn series from Steve Kavanaugh, so I will continue to read more of those. While Justice Sleeps was kind of I will continue to read more Sherry Lapina. I do like her stories. They're quick, they're fast, enjoyable. Cold-Blooded Liar, I might read another one because I do like the detective, like I said, Kit Patrick, and I believe there is now a second book in this San Diego series, or it's coming close. Maybe it just came out, something like that. So I might read that one at some point, and then You Belong Here. It's just okay. But that was my reading for the month of August. So I hope you enjoyed that. And thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to my little book reviews here. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.